Might have just stuck us right on. I need to figure this whole with the countdown thing on, but whatever, we're on.
Right on. What's up, man?
Shit, nothing much, nothing much. I literally just finished this like 30 minutes ago. I was gonna say it's this could turn out to be comical because I did the talk to text thing and I didn't really get a chance to go back and like correct a bunch of stuff. So hopefully I can catch my mistakes on the fly.
It's okay. Plus, we're doing it live. A lot of these people, they'll record it and then they'll go back and fix it. Like we're doing it pretty raw, which is cool. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I like doing the live stuff. I'm trying to work on like a pre-recorded thing for the first time, and even then, I'm trying to do it with like as little editing as possible. One, just because I hate listening to myself talk over and over again, and then two, I don't know, the live stuff is always better.
Right.
But yeah, fuck it, Taxi Driver. It's funny. Just Wednesday, we were like, we should do Taxi Driver, and then we're like, oh, let's just
Yeah.
fucking just get it over with.
I
Uh,
actually I messaged your buddy Sherm Smoke on Instagram. I don't know if he saw it, but I know he suggested that. So I messaged him, said we were doing it tonight. So if
Yeah, I saw him comment that, and YouTube's weird. I commented back from the page and said, "Yeah, we definitely are going to do that." And then my comment was there for like an hour and then disappeared. And so that's why I don't know why YouTube like made that comment disappear, but I've noticed we're on the 70s trend. I think next week when we do Silence of the Lambs, we'll finally break it. But we've been on a good 70s. I know Easy Rider is 69, but that's damn near 70.
right,
But yeah, the
right.
70s movies, they're just good. I just like how they look.
The classics always hold up. That's why I tell people, like, when they're always like, I tried watching these new movies and they all suck. I'm like, dude, the classics always hold up, no matter how many times you watch them.
Yeah, and then even then, people complain about old movies, and I think it's Tom Savini. He said, when you talk to younger kids and they try to tell you like, oh, I don't want to watch like Frankenstein, it's an old movie. He says, well, it's not an old movie if you haven't seen it yet. I'm like, oh,
Right, right.
that's pretty
Dude's a
good.
legend. Dude's a legend.
Oh yeah, but all right, shit. Always for the opening. When's the first time you saw Taxi Driver, and then like overall thoughts? I know you mentioned Travis Bickle being kind of relatable in some ways.
Right. That's what I was gonna say. So first off, I seen it probably 12 years ago. And my first impression was just like, holy shit, like look at the colors of this movie. Like the neon, the shots, the characters, the storyline. I love everything about this movie. This is definitely my top 10. And yeah, like even to this day, but especially back, being a very angry younger guy, like I could totally relate to that character, Travis Bickle, because like kind of like Catcher in the Rye, how he looks at everybody as phony and fake, and our world is getting worse and worse, and nobody's doing anything about it, and what the fuck is going on? Why is why is our world getting so shitty and nobody seems to give a shit? And also like I related to him in the fact of like being an outcast. Like growing up, I was always the black sheep. Like listen to the classic rock, the shit that nobody listened to, was into like the movies nobody was into. So like Travis Bickle is definitely an outcast, and I related to myself and him in a lot of ways. But yeah, my first impression, that movie is just amazing. It's a work of art. Even to this day, it holds true to just being an absolute classic. I mean, Martin Scorsese is a genius. Anything he touches is phenomenal, and that was one of his earlier movies, and he killed it. What about you? When did you see it?
So like all of the 70s movies that I like recently, like within the last year or two, I saw it for the first time. And by the time I saw it, I had, like I said, started getting into 60s and 70s movies that I consider similar in the way that so kind of like Easy Rider. The plot in these movies, I don't want to say nothing happens because obviously a lot happens, but you're basically just following around a character or two characters in Easy Rider's case, but there's nothing really fancy. You're just kind of following a guy. So but so when I first watched Easy Rider, because I saw that first, I didn't really get it. And I was kind of like, nothing happens. I'm just following these two guys around. But then once I watched it again, I understood it. I got it. And then I watched Taxi Driver, and by that point I got these kind of like character study movies. I think that's what hipsters call them, is like their character studies where you just follow one guy. and kind of follow him down as he goes down this well of weird shit. But yeah, I like looking for some because Travis Bickle, he's one of those people that I feel like it sometimes he is relatable, other times of course not, but the times that he is, there's even things he does that I'm like, oh, I kind of wish I had the guts to do that. I make
Right,
a big deal
right.
about him talking to Betsy. I'm like, dude, straight in there, like here's what I gotta say, and that comes back to bite him in the ass later on. That's a pretty big fumble, but yeah, it's almost like his social awkwardness gives him the guts to like do things that most people wouldn't do. Like he feels no shame or feels no embarrassment. He just kind of only knows how to do what he knows how to do. Um, yeah, it's a weird movie. It's a really cool movie. I really like this movie. It's I love the look of it. Dude, it literally looks like a guy just took a camera and walked around New York in the 70s. And that's
Which, I don't mean to cut you off, but I was reading like earlier about, facts about the movie, and I already knew this, but what you just said, it looks like a guy's just walking around a camera in New York City. They didn't really make the scenes up. Like they made the scenes up, but they didn't make the background up. Like all that garbage on the street and all that shit, all those people walking, those are random people. Those weren't like people that are like, all right, we're gonna roll now. You walk by here and let's throw some trash on the street. It basically is a guy with a camera following Robert De Niro. And New York was in such a disarray, crazy, dirty, gritty time that all that really was, like you said, like just them following a guy and letting it be the natural, just the natural geography of the scenes. I think that's so fucking cool. They didn't really put any background into it.
yeah, I know we've talked about we both seem to love the 70s and 80s like New York movies.
Love it
It's
because that
perfect. There's no reason to like do any set designing or get any extras or just you just
didn't
go out
have
there with the
to.
camera and it just shit pops off. You're gonna find something no matter what. But yeah, I like the nighttime scenes a lot. Dude, I love the music in this, the fucking like jazzy nightlife New York. It's
Yeah,
perfect. It's almost
yeah.
like relaxing in a way where like all this chaotic shit is going on, but then you got this like slow jazz kind of yeah.
It's got the relaxing tone, but it's got that sleaze to it. That sleazy, like, just like, I don't know, like you're in an underground bar at 2 in the morning smoking a cigarette, sleazy jazz. Like it's just fucking amazing. I like this movie more than most people. I will say, just because the factors of me relating to the character and that time period. Like we said, I grew up in New Jersey, far away from the city, but my family lived right my grandparents lived, a stone's throw away from New York, and they lived in that time period. They talked about how you went to the New York City, on 76th Street, and there's peep shows, you know, and there was, porn and, XXX and neon lights, and they didn't know what to do. The mob ran the city, and this is such a good depiction of that I think it kind of hits home for, like, me knowing that my family lived during that time in that area. It's pretty wild. So
I'm very jealous of the people that had like porno theaters and peep shows. Like now, now it's all on your phone. There's no effort. Back in the day, if you wanted to see some porn, you had to commit. You had to get up and get dressed and like go to the
yeah,
theater, and you had to show your face in public areas too, where like your high school math teacher might see you, or you
yeah,
might see your high school math teacher walking into the porno theater.
yeah.
But nowadays, it's all you're just kind of hidden in your bed behind your phone screen, and you can just wallow in your own shame. Whereas back in the day, you had to have the guts to show your face at these theaters, and
Right. And like the peep shows were big then, like from what I hear, you put a quarter in and there's a live girl behind plexiglass. Like picture like that scene. Like you're, this weird dude putting a quarter in and you're beating off to a girl who's behind bulletproof glass. Like I can't even fathom that. Like that time period is just so crazy to me. And that's, uh the opening line, well, not opening, but one of the opening scenes when Travis Bickle goes, all the freaks come out at night, pussies, skunks, buggers, fairies, dopers, tweakers. He's talking about that whole that whole thing that's going on that he's just seeing out his window, and everybody lived that at that time, which is nuts. I could imagine, being sick of it as well.
It's funny you brought up that quote because I made sure I wrote down that exact quote in my, like, plot run. I'll get to that in, like it's, like, a couple paragraphs
Such a
in.
great quote, dude. Such a great quote.
Yeah.
I always joke around like, one day a real rain will come and wash away the scum off the street, and that's exactly what he says.
Yeah, it's just a cool looking movie, and, nothing will ever beat trashy, like, 70s and 80s New York. And then it's funny because it seems like the 90s tried to keep it alive, it seemed like. You'd watch, like I don't think The Crow took place in New York. It might have, it might not have, but, in the 90s, that was when you got, like, movies about, like, the sewage system in New York, and then, like, mutated animals would come out of it, and it kinda tried to
Right,
keep
right,
the grimy New York thing alive, but it wasn't quite the same as, like, 70s and 80s New York.
right.
But, alright, yeah, fucking A, I'm gonna get into this.
Yeah,
So I have it on my phone this time. Usually I write the plots down on my laptop, but since I did that whole talk to text thing this time, I have it here. So
definitely makes it easier.
yeah, yeah, I should do it. I need to start like watching the movie Friday night. That's what I'll start doing next week. I'll start doing it that way. But all right. So right off the bat, the first thing I wrote was right away the very opening shot. This is kind of more like my take on this stuff right here. The very opening shot of Taxi Driver is the car driving through all the steam that comes out of the ground in New York. And I wrote, it almost looks like a horror movie. Uh, when I first watched this movie, that was one of the things. When I first watched this movie, I kind of started thinking it was a horror movie just based off like the opening of it. And especially when the next shot is Travis Bickle's eyes and it's all close up and it's got that red light. I always like to try and tie in horror to everything I like just because I like horror movies so much. And I think you could maybe make an argument that there's kind of like a social horror going on in this movie. Like New York was kind of a horror show at the time, but in a different way. Well, actually, maybe not even in a different way. You had fucking like Son of Sam running around and shit. But yeah, so I like the opening shots of this. It kind of introduces you really quickly to what you're going to get into, and of course that jazz line hits right away. The first thing you hear, and yeah, I love that song. I could
Yeah,
listen to that song on like a 10-hour loop while I sleep at night.
yeah.
So that was the next paragraph was me ranting about the music. I get to right away we meet Travis Bickle, the main character. He's getting a job as a taxi driver. My own personal note. I really don't get how this works. Like he walks into a place and on the spot the guy gives him a job. Was that like a thing? You just
I think that because of that time period, nobody wanted to be a taxi driver in New York because there was so much crime. There was murders, rapes, robberies, and especially if you listen to when the one guy goes, "You cool with working black neighborhoods?" And he goes,
yeah.
"Anywhere, anytime." And he goes, "You cool working holidays in black neighborhoods?" He goes, "Anywhere, anytime." So, and I was also a Vietnam vet, and like I'm sure there was like, you know, kind of like I guess a desperate time for jobs for people at that. I mean, I didn't live during that time period, but I can only imagine. And real quick, I don't know if you caught it. That actor, I forget his name, but the guy that gives him the taxi job, that is the guy who plays in Maniac, the main character.
Oh, Joe Spinell.
Right, yeah. So he plays Frank Zito, but I don't know if you catch that, but that's him. Yeah,
Yeah, I remembered that. It's funny. I actually missed that this time, but I remember the first time I watched it. Every time I watch a movie, I go to the Wikipedia. I look at the cast, and yeah, Joe Spinell. I love Joe Spinell. He's
great actor.
yeah, yeah, he kills it in Maniac.
Right,
So and of course Maniac, a great trashy New York movie.
phenomenal. Yeah,
So yeah, Travis Bickle's talking to this guy about taking a taxi driver's job. He says he can't sleep at night. He spends all his nights riding around on subways and buses, so he might as well get paid for it. I've also had trouble sleeping at night throughout my life, and I am always jealous of big city folks because they can just do stuff like ride around on buses and subways. Like, all I can really do is walk down to the 7-Eleven and get stabbed by a tweaker, which I guess is pretty New York.
thank you, Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. But I guess that is pretty like 70s New York, but it's not the same. It's different in a way. Like I might get stabbed by a tweaker in New York, but at least on the way, I'll get some offers from some prostitutes, and I'll see a subway, and I'll see a bus, but here, no, there's none of that cool shit. We see that Travis lives in a small, messy apartment. Now we're in his apartment, which I think is cool. I love those like small New York apartments in these movies. He keeps a journal, and the journal is going to tell us a lot throughout the course of this movie with the narration of what he's writing. He mostly spends his time talking or writing about what he thinks of the city and what he thinks of the people and humanity as a whole. In one of his journal entries that we hear as he's driving his taxi car around the city, we get a quote from him. And here's the quote that says, "All the animals come out at night: whores, skunk pussies, buggers, queens, fairies, dopers, junkies, sick, venal. Someday a real rain will come and wash all this scum off the streets."
Love that.
It's a great
I
MySpace headline.
it's just like you could feel his frustration with like society at that point, and I feel like again, a lot of us can relate to that. And like, think of it, that's the 70s. Think of how fucking bad it is now. I think of that all the time when I'm driving. Like, I'm just like looking at like, this crazy shit that's going on. And I just refer back. I refer back to this movie too much.
Yeah.
Too much. So I love that line. You feel his frustration though. Like that's when you know that is a great written scene, is because I mean you feel his anger.
Yeah, yeah. There's a line way later in the movie. I already forgot what exact part it's at, but somebody makes a mention of someone makes a threat of like calling the cops or something, and somebody says, "Oh, the cops won't do anything." And it's funny because it's what you mentioned. Like when you're driving around and you see like people like leaned over on the streets and shit, you're like, why is there no one like doing anything about it? Like, and yeah,
Right.
the cops won't do anything. But and you can't always blame them, but that's a whole other deal. So after a shift driving for the night, we see him take a pill. I'm not really sure if we ever find out what the pill is. I think he just kind of takes a pill once in a while. It could
Yeah, they
be
don't say. I'm not sure. I'm thinking it's some kind of, antipsychotic or, stimulant drug.
yeah. I might even think it could be some kind of downer because he talks about how he can't sleep and he takes it at the end of his shift. Maybe he's
True, true. Could be for insomnia, yeah.
yeah. I think the general idea is just this motherfucker's taking pills and he's probably not living the healthiest life. Once he's done with his shifts, he mentions that he has to. I only wrote this down because it's funny. He mentions that he has to clean the cum out of the back seats of his taxi cars, sometimes even the blood. We fast forward to the next morning, and he's drinking on his way to a porno theater. At the concession stand at the theater, Travis kind of hassles the woman that's working there. He wants to know her name, and she obviously doesn't want to tell him her name, so she threatens to call the manager. It's basically the first kind of awkward social interaction we see of him, and eventually he just buys his candy and goes to the theater. But the entire movie is pretty much a series of awkward social interactions that he has with people.
Yeah, I mean, that's where we really learn that he has a problem talking to women. He has a problem talking to people in general, especially women. And I think he felt like that in the porno theater. Like, I don't know, like he thought that that would maybe be like a, easier place to talk to her. And like he's so awkward with it. And he's like, what's your name? And she obviously gets heckled by these fucking pervs all day long. And she's like, Johnny, security. And he's like, I'll just have some juju bees, please. I'll just
Yeah,
have
she
a
was.
large pot. And I love they have popcorn in a fucking porn theater. Like, what the
Yeah,
fuck is that? Like,
yeah, she was not having it.
no.
It's funny I mentioned I made a little note. I wrote one note that I had to make was that the total of the candy and the popcorn and soda that he got was like $1.85. He paid with $2 bills, is what I remember. two
We used to
dollars.
be a proper nation.
Dude, the movie theater down the street from my house that I go to, I get a larger water bottle, so it's not this size. It's like one bigger. It's like $8. So I'm very jealous of people that can get an entire meal at a movie theater for less than $2.
Right.
So we see him watching the movie, and we hear more journal entries from him as he's watching. He mentions that he's worked for 12 hours straight and he still can't get any sleep. So I wrote, obviously, he's got some kind of insomnia going on, which I also like movies like to deal with insomniacs. I think of like Fight Club. It seems like wild shit happens to movie characters when they can't sleep.
Right.
Um, and then we cut to the next day. We're introduced to Betsy. I had to write Betsy, dude. Betsy is one of the like babest babes in all of like she's so attractive.
She is hot.
I'm totally in love with this Betsy girl. She's awesome. Travis tells us that he first saw her in Senator Charles Palatine's campaign headquarters, and she was wearing a white dress. He says that she looked like an angel out of this filthy mess, referring to the city. We see Betsy working in this building, um, and she notices outside that Travis is sitting in his taxi staring at her. So one of Betsy's coworkers goes outside to tell Travis to move, and Travis pretty much takes off immediately. So I think he understands that I don't know if he gets that what he's doing is wrong, but he knows, he knew this guy was coming out to yell at him because he took off pretty quick. We skip ahead to the following night. Travis is back on the clock driving taxi, and we see him pull up to a diner. Here we meet some characters who I would consider the only characters we could really consider his friends in this movie. I don't know if they would call each other friends. They hang out. They all drive
Coworkers, coworkers, yeah.
Yeah, they all drive taxis. They all hang out at this late night diner. Yeah, I wrote that. I think these guys were also taxi drivers. And one of them is telling a story about fucking a girl in the backseat of his taxi cab, which I don't believe. I think this is like one of those like dudes making up stories.
Right.
I put these dudes are definitely also kind of weird. Not quite as weird as Travis, but they're definitely kind of weird. They all seem a little off. And then here we see the first hint of everyone loves to talk about this. Travis's racism. He seems to have weird reactions when he sees like other black people. He stares off into space and seems to get kind of distracted. And I guess I've heard a lot about the script, in the original script that was written. Travis was like more of a full blown racist. Like he was entirely like unmistakably racist or unmistakably racist. I think now the way the movie is, it's kind of up for debate. Like I would understand people that say one way or the other. I know Quentin Tarantino basically considers it a movie about a fucking racist, like just flat out. Um, I would imagine he, has some thoughts, but like he never flat out, insults one of these people or calls him any kind of name or says anything to suggest. It's just the way he has this kind of strange reaction when he sees them in particular, and the camera always goes out of their way to show when he's like staring at black people. He seems to.
Yeah. There's also that time period, it was more, it was more prevalent for people to be open about that. Real quick, that scene where they're in the diner, I think I mentioned this last time we brought the movie up. That actor with the bald hair, that's the dude that plays and Everybody Loves Raymond, the father, and in Young Frankenstein, he plays the monster, which is at first I was like, where do I know this fucking guy from?
It's
He's an ugly looking dude.
the guy that he talks to the most, right? With the
Yeah.
straight up Hulk Hogan hair.
Yeah, and he's the one that like he winds up like trying to like get a heart to heart to, and the guy wants nothing to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. He's, yeah.
I paid attention this time when I watched it, and I figured he was the one just because he's the most notable of the
A
characters.
lot, a lot of people like, I mean, I don't know if this happened to you, but a lot of people like since it's such a slow moving movie, they get like fucking bored. I mean, that very well may have happened to you. So there's a lot of things you could miss. You're like, all right, here we're driving again. We're driving, and I don't know. I look at it differently, but there's a lot of things I could understand how somebody could miss because it's bland for a long time.
So I don't get bored. But what will happen to me is I'll miss things. One, I miss this guy because I've never really watched Everybody Loves
Right,
Raymond.
right.
But I'll miss things because I'm paying attention to some totally weird shit. Like I'll literally like the things that I make note of. Like I'll be literally staring at Betsy, being like, "Wow, she's so pretty," and then like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
whole character will pass by that I'm like, "Oh, I was supposed to be watching."
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'll
No,
literally
that's
get
cool.
stuck on one corner of the screen when I should be looking over here. That's why I have to watch
Right.
movies multiple times
Over and
usually.
over again. Yeah.
Um, and then moving on, I wrote one of the guys at the table offers to get Travis hooked up with a gun. He tells him that driving a taxi, he should always have a gun on him at all times, which yeah, I would 100% agree with. Now we jump to the next day. A lot of jumping from day to day in this movie, which I like. It seems to take place over a lot of kind of wide range of time. We're back with Betsy at her work, and Travis is once again sitting outside of her work. But this time he gets out of his car and he goes straight into her work and basically has the guts we all wish we had when it comes to approaching women. Travis walks right up to her, says that he'd like to volunteer for the campaign, And when her male coworker tries to help him get started in the volunteering process, Travis doesn't know he wants to volunteer with her specifically. So she asks why, and he says straight up, I wrote the quote because I think that you are the most beautiful woman I have ever seen. And my favorite thing about their interactions, at least up until he fumbles the bag pretty bad, is she seems to really like what he like she's always smiling when he's talking. She seems to really like that he's kind of weird and eccentric, and I think she's kind of attracted to it.
Yeah, she's intrigued. She's definitely intrigued by him. And the guy that she works with, who obviously clearly has a crush on her as well, is like total opposite. So she's going for this like mysterious, weird guy, and this other guy's like real like quirky and like corny. So
When I first watched this, I thought that she was gonna end up with the curly-haired coworker, and I was pissed the whole time. I was like, "Dude, you better not get with that goofy motherfucker." We learned that this is a campaign from a presidential campaign. Basically, I think this is the first time she mentions that Palantine is the senator and he's running for president. So when Travis offers to volunteer, Betsy starts asking him questions, like what he thinks about Palantine and his policies. Travis basically says he doesn't know anything about Palantine. It's pretty obvious that he just wanted a reason to talk to Betsy. Finally, Travis asks out Betsy, and he asks her out to get coffee and pie, which is a great combination.
yeah, would you like to get a piece of pie and coffee? The way he says it's funny.
It's perfect. Who doesn't like coffee and pie? Um, yeah. So this is another side note I had to wrote. I've heard theories that I actually really like that Travis kind of projects himself onto Betsy. So like right here, when Travis is talking to her, he tells Betsy that he sees her and he thinks that she's lonely and that she's unhappy and that she needs something, but he doesn't know her at all. It's really Travis that's lonely and unhappy and needs something. So it seems like he kind of uses her as a way to tell himself how he is.
I've actually never even thought of it that way, and that makes a lot of sense because he has no idea. She could be the most popular person in the world, and he reflects his own like sorrow onto her. That's a good pickup there.
Yeah, yeah, I thought it was interesting. He is clearly the lonely and unhappy guy, and I can't imagine her being lonely. I mean,
Right.
she
Guys
seems to.
probably all are trying to, get with her.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, like curly-headed fucking coworkers. Um, at this point, it's pretty obvious by now that Travis is oh, yeah, I finished off the theory. At this point, it's pretty obvious by now that Travis is the one who's actually lonely and unhappy. But it seems like Betsy admires Travis's gusto and his eccentricities. I need to not use words that I can't read. And she smiles and laughs and agrees to go out with him on her break. So on this date, Travis goes on this kind of rant and tells her that he thinks there's something between them, like an impulse. And that impulse is what gave him the right to come in and talk to her. And that's again when I wrote, she always seems kind of weirded out by him, but she's always smiling when he talks. And at this part, she even agrees that there was like an impulse between them, and that's why she agreed to go out on this date with him. So like, dude, this whole time it's going perfectly. I remember watching this for the first time thinking like, dude, my boy's doing this shit right. Like what's weird about this guy? He's making this shit happen. Travis tells Betsy that he doesn't think her coworker respects her, and he asks her out to a movie sometime soon. Betsy says yes, and then tells Travis that he's a walking contradiction while referencing a song by Chris Christopherson. She tells him that he reminds her of this song. I was also listening to someone talk about yesterday. There was an interview with the writer. I think it's Paul Schrader who wrote the script, and he intentionally tried to make Travis Bickle contradictory in every way possible, and even his name being one of them. So he said he named him this because Travis makes him think of the word travel, which is, you go around, you see beautiful places. And then Bickle is kind of a harsh, crass, ugly name. So he tried to pick like a name like Travis and then Bickle to kind of point out the contradictions of this guy. There's a lot more of the theory of him being like contradictory in all these ways, which I thought was really interesting. I can't remember a lot of them. One of them was that later in the film when he starts exercising, he's eating all this junk food and eating like shit, but then he's also exercising. So it's like two sides, which is funny because that's how I am. I still eat like shit, but I'll still work out. But yeah, if you find any people talking about it, it's an interesting kind of thing to look into, all the ways that he contradicts himself throughout the movie. Um, we now cut to Travis. He's buying that Chris Christopherson record and getting back in the taxi, which is, dude, this guy's on his game at this point. Like he's already out buying her
Doing
records and shit.
he's doing great for a while.
Oh yeah, man, it's the ultimate fuck up. We hear more in Travis's journal entries. He talks about calling Betsy to arrange their movie date. So now it's nighttime. We see Travis is driving the taxi again, and coincidentally, Charles Palantine has gotten in the back of his car. So Travis starts telling Palantine that he's his biggest supporter, despite actually knowing nothing about him. I don't know why I think this part's hilarious. Travis tells Palantine that he thinks the city is full of filth and scum and needs cleaning before dropping him off at his destination. And I don't know, like, you never really know his motivation for, like, kissing this guy's ass the way he does. I almost think he was thinking, like, maybe he'll go back to work and tell everyone that he met this guy, Travis Bickle, and it'll impress Betsy. I don't know, but it's a hilarious scene to me for some reason, the way that he's just like, "I'm your biggest supporter. I wanna put your sticker on my taxi cab, but my boss won't let me." Like,
And he's like, I know you're gonna change things around here. I know you are. He gets real like personable with him. It's a fucking very weird scene.
yeah, and he also, he does it kinda well, though, like, it's another sign of him, like, he's socially awkward, but he never offends the guy or says anything upsetting, like, he's being nice to him, and Palatine even shakes his hand and is like, "I appreciate you," when he gets out of the car, and so it's like he knows how to do this stuff sometimes, it seems like, and then other times he doesn't know how to do it at all.
I think what's also interesting is when you see Travis getting real passionate about, again, talking about, just scum and filth. And like Palantine kind of looks at him a little weird, like, he's a little too excited about this. And when he shakes his hand, he's like, I think I know what you mean. Like he's trying to be personable with him. Like, even though this guy seems a little off the handle. He was real passionate about there's so much scum and filth, and he's like, I think I know what you mean. It's just another broken, political promise that all these guys do.
Yeah, yeah, and they're probably good at dealing with weirdos, because 'cause I'd imagine they get approached by weirdos all that's like half the job is just dealing with weirdos. So, now we meet Iris, a very obviously underage girl who gets into the back of Travis's car. She asks him to hurry up and drive away, but Travis just sits there and stares at her in the mirror, which, is one of my favorite things about this movie. Anytime anything is going on in the back seat, Travis is kind of he just freezes and just stares in the mirror. It's like he I feel like he's, in his own mind, he's watching a different world, like, when he looks through that
Right.
mirror.
Watching that from the inside out.
Yeah, he never talks, he never does anything, he just sits there and stares at them, and, this
Yeah.
goes into his theory about the world being trash, and he sees all this trash in his back seat every night.
12-year-old Jodie Foster.
Yeah, fucking A, man. You can never do this. This is part of why I like 70s movies, not because I wanna see 12-year-old horrors, but because, that's real life, and you can't do that in movies nowadays, whereas the 70s, dude,
That was a huge, huge controversy
yeah,
that using her, usually you use an 18-year-old girl playing as a young girl. That is one of the biggest controversies about this movie. But dude, that just shows you child prodigy actress. I mean, she did a phenomenal job. At 12 years old, who could act like that? I mean, like,
yeah. Um, Let me see. So, yeah, Travis doesn't drive away, he just sits there and stares, and a man opens the back seat of the car and pulls her out very aggressively. You can tell pretty obviously this girl does not wanna go with this man. And after yanking her around for a second, the man gives Travis 20 bucks and tells him to forget about the whole incident. Travis kind of stares at the 20, but he takes it and he drives off. So Travis is driving around the city, and as he's driving down a certain street, his taxi car gets pelted by, it just looks like drinks and random shit, a group of young black men. And I only point that out because I've heard another theory that says the theory is that Travis knows this is a bad neighborhood, but he drives down the street intentionally because it helps him reinforce his idea. The theory is basically that he could avoid a lot of the trash and shit and bad people in New York if he wanted to, but he kind of chooses to constantly go toward it just to kind of reinforce his idea that the world is falling apart. Whereas, you think like Betsy, I imagine Betsy doesn't drive down bad neighborhoods, and you can avoid all that stuff only for so long, but it seems like Travis is kind of attracted to it. Like he knows he doesn't like it. He knows he calls it scum and filth, but he always seems to be driving through it. And it kind of seems to be like a pull, it has
He
this pull on him.
he always needs to validate his idea.
Yeah, that's the way to put it. He always has to validate it. And it's funny because it really doesn't need any validating. If you live in a shithole long enough, eventually the shit will come to you. But Travis is like, well, I'm gonna get it over with and just go to the shit right away. So I thought that was kind of interesting because it's one of those I wouldn't call it a pointless scene, but it's literally just a scene of him driving and like kids throw stuff at his car. The movie would be fine without it, but I think it's there for a reason. It kind of gives you something to think about. Why is he, or why are we watching this even happen? So now we go to Travis and Betsy are meeting up for their movie date. I had to write, man, talk about a fumble. Travis gives Betsy the record he bought for her, and she seems excited about it. And Travis even mentions maybe them listening to it at her house on her record player, which is very smooth. I thought that was also genius too. My record player is broken, but I want to listen to it. You know, good stuff. Travis knows what he's doing sometimes up until this point. Then we see Travis is bringing Betsy to a porno theater, and everything starts going south. Betsy expresses her disapproval of this idea, but Travis reassures her that it's going to be fine. He sees these movies all the time, and he sees couples here all the time, which I'm sure he does, but we see them watching the movie, and Betsy is grossed out by the movie, and she leaves. Betsy tells Travis that they're just different, and she goes home. I think it's either later this night or the next night, but we see Travis is on the phone talking to Betsy, and you can tell she's clearly lost all interest in him and has no desire to see him anymore. After they hang up, we hear his journal entry, and he's telling his journal, which means he's telling us that Betsy doesn't answer his phone calls anymore. We see his apartment full of flowers, implying that she's either sending all of his flowers back to him or that he's not actually even sending them, which is another interesting theory I heard. So when he's on the phone with her, he says, "Did you get my flowers? I've sent a bunch of them." And she says, "No, I haven't gotten any flowers from you." And then in his apartment, we see that his apartment is full of flowers. So one of them is lying. Either she's getting them and sending them back, or he's not even sending them, and he's just got them piling up in his apartment. So then the theory said, well, if he's lying, then what if he hallucinated that phone call? What if she never even answered the first time, and his apartment's just full of flowers that he bought for her and never sent? And he's kind of
Right.
like an unreliable narrator in a lot of parts. One of the theories
Right.
even questioned his veteran status when he says he's a Marine. They were like, he says this, but we really, there's no proof to anything that he says. So you have to take
Right.
everything he says with a grain of salt. All right, the next day we see Travis walking right into Betsy's work again. Her coworker tries to get him to leave, and he hassles her about not answering his phone calls. He tells her that she's in hell and she's going to die in hell like the rest of them. And then he strikes a great karate pose to intimidate.
I love that. I love that.
It's funny because I've been noticing, specifically, I mean, I noticed it all the time, but the movie that really pushed it into my or hammered it into my head is Faster Pussycat Kill Kill. The 60s and 70s, they were all into like karate chops and shit. Like karate must have been the most badass form of violent. Yeah, there's a lot of karate chopping and a lot of people get in those stances and like it's meant to be intimidating. Quentin Tarantino, there's an interview with him. It's actually it's pretty funny. He talks about when he saw Taxi Driver as a kid, he saw it in a black neighborhood. So everyone in the theater was black. And they said, or he said that a lot of the things that Travis did, all the black audience would laugh at. And they said when he did this karate pose, they all started fucking laughing at him in the theater and they thought he was kind of a goober.
Love that.
Yeah, it's like hilarious, but it's also kind of like it just pushes toward like him being insane because it's like, bro, you're in the middle of a dude's like presidential campaign office and you're like striking karate poses.
His eyes get real fucking wide too. Like,
It's I lost my place. Okay, I just found it. So once finally eventually he leaves. And it's also funny that when he leaves, the cop kind of just follows him and obviously never does anything about it. I don't know why I thought that was kind of funny. He over his journal entries, we hear again that he says he's finally realized that Betsy is just like the rest of the people in the city. which is funny because it's kind of how quick he will like write someone off or turn on them, I guess. So now it's nighttime again. We get the scene where Travis is driving around, or he's driving around a man who's actually played by Martin Scorsese himself. The
Right.
Martin Scorsese character has Travis parked outside of an apartment building looking up at a woman through a window. Scorsese tells Travis that the woman is his wife, but she's currently cheating on him. He goes on to tell Travis about his plan to kill his wife, and he asks Travis if he knows what a 44 Magnum could do to a woman's face and to a woman's pussy. Martin Scorsese repeatedly asks Travis, "You must think I'm sick." And this is again a scene where Travis just sits there and stares at him. This guy's talking about shooting his wife in the vagina with a 44 Magnum, and Travis is just kind of sitting there staring at him in the mirror.
It's such a great interaction, dude.
Yeah, it's like
He's
it's almost funny, but then at the same time, you're like, well, I could totally see this happening. Like, the guy's getting cheated on. He's probably really gonna fucking shoot his wife in the face. Like,
and Martin Scorsese plays such a scatterbrained, really fucking upset guy when he goes, "Yeah, that's my wife up there. She's with a, blank," what he
yeah,
says, and then he goes, do you know what a gun can do to a woman's pussy? That you should see what it can do to a woman's pussy." Like he's losing his mind. And here are these two fucking psychos that are their worlds are both like colliding. It's it's fucking nuts.
I noticed he stutters a lot, which I liked because we've all been fucking cheated on, and I know that that moment that you're whenever you get cheated on, there's always like a moment where it like kind of like you know it's happening, but then something hits you, like maybe you walk into a party and you actually see it happening, and like the stuttering that he's doing is exactly how you'd be like, or at least how
Yeah,
I
you'd
would.
be taken back. Yeah.
Yeah, hey, your mind is pretty scattered in that moment. So now we're back at the diner with Travis's friends. One of the guys asks Travis if he has that $5 that he owes him. So Travis pulls out his wad of cash, and we see that Travis has made a lot of money driving. And we also see that Travis notices that crumpled up $20 bill that the pimp gave him the other night to forget about the incident with the girl. And he seems to have a reaction upon seeing it, but he puts it back and he gives the guys $5. When one of the guys leaves, Wiz, the wizard, this is the guy that we've been talking about. Travis goes with him, and we see Travis weirdly staring at more black people outside the diner. Like every time he notices black people, he goes off into these weird like trances while staring at them. And so here, Travis tells one of his taxi driver buddies that he's got these real bad ideas in his head, and he's being kind of vague, but I think it's pretty obvious that he's starting to get these violent thoughts. And it seems like Wiz kind of wants nothing to do with it. I think he knows that I think he knows what Travis is thinking. He just tells him, "Oh, you'll be all right," and he just clearly wants to get out of there.
That's what I think. He's screaming like desperation for anybody that'll hear. Like, you hear like somebody killed himself and like, was there any signs or whatever? And like this would be like a sign. Like this, he's like, I got some bad ideas. I got them in my head. And he just wants anybody that'll listen. And it's kind of sad because nobody gives a fuck about this guy. And I think the one other his fellow taxi driver goes, "Go get a blowjob, go get laid." And he's like, "I don't want to get laid. I want to fucking fix my fucking spiraling life."
Yeah.
Um, Pretty cool scene.
It's also kind of a sign of like I said, they're like the closest thing to his friends, they're just coworkers. It's kind of how it'd be like if I went to my job and tried to tell another guy, like, yeah, I've been having these thoughts. Most guys at work are just like, bro, I'm trying to go home at 5. Like,
Yeah,
it takes a lot to build relationships that are like that deep with coworkers. Cause yeah, generally when I'm at work, if my coworker came to me and was like, I'm having bad thoughts, I'd be like, oh, okay, me too. I'll see you tomorrow. Like,
yeah, yeah. It's just Rob being Rob again.
yeah, yeah, no big deal. So now we're back in Travis's apartment. He's eating a bunch of junk food, it looks like, and he's watching an interview on TV with Senator Palantine. The following night is Travis is driving around again, and he almost runs over that underage girl from earlier. She kind of walks out in front of the car, and he stops just in time. He starts following her in his car. She's with another girl. They're walking along the sidewalk, and Travis kind of creepily follows them in the car, staring at them. And after the girls meet up with some guys on the corner, Travis sees this and he drives off. So the next day, Travis meets up with a black market dealer to buy some guns. And he specifically asked for a 44 Magnum, which I also thought was hilarious for some reason. Like he's planning to go out and shoot some pussy later that night or something. He also buys a few other handguns in a holster. We cut back to Travis's apartment. We see him working out. Through his journal entries, we learn that all of a sudden he's getting in shape now. He is taking his fitness seriously. I also think it's hilarious that he's doing those push-ups with the clap. Like,
Yeah. And
it's
his
just
arms are like this his arms are like this big. He's like, no more poisons in my body. Now it's, complete regimented exercise. And like he's such a tiny little guy and he's just trying so hard to become this badass, killing machine.
yeah. It's funny to me. It's just kind of eccentric to be like, like I can do the push-ups with the clap, but generally when I'm like, okay, it's time to work out, I'm not doing the push-ups with the clap. Like, I don't know, is there any real reason to be adding the clap?
Uh, it's just trying to make himself look cool.
Yeah, yeah. It just makes me think this guy's kind of goofy. We also get shots of him practicing shooting in gun ranges and continuing to visit porno theaters, continuing to visit porno theaters and practicing his quick draw in the mirror in his apartment. After a long camera shot on a poster of Palatine's presidential campaign, I think at that point it's obvious that Travis is preparing for something to do with Senator Palatine. We also see him making one of those spring-loaded quick draw sleeves. Yeah, dude, I would love one of those. Even if I didn't have a gun to put in it, just I don't know, I'd put something in it. It'd be cool.
Yeah, and
Uh,
he's making it out of like household items. He's like shaving down like I think it was like a piece of trim on the ground, like a piece of wood and metal, and he's doing it out of like household things, which makes it even crazier. You know,
yeah, he seems like dude, he's definitely more of a capable guy than like people. He does know how to get a date. He might fuck up on that date, obviously, but he knows how to get a date. Uh, he knows how to build spring-loaded quick draw sleeves in his own apartment. Like he knows how to do things. He's just kind of goofy, and obviously kind of in a dark place. But yeah, it seems like he generally knows how to survive. So we cut to a Palatine rally, and we see Travis wandering around scoping out the premises. And he has this oversized jacket on, uh, clearly hiding his weapons. And Travis starts talking to a Secret Service agent and expresses interest in a job with the Secret Service, but then lies about all of his contact information when the agent says he can talk to someone. Someone else also pointed out in a video I watched that he shakes the agent's hand with his left hand, probably because his right hand is holding
right?
a gun under his jacket.
I noticed that. I think, and I forget the exact name he gives him. It's total like
He-
it's such a
Henry Crinkle.
yeah. Yes, like it's the total like you might as well have said John Smith, and like they knew they were onto him from the minute he started talking to him. Henry Krinkle, Krinkle.
Yeah.
It's like what the fuck?
It's probably smart that he gave a wrong name because I bet you the agent was like actually taking his stuff down to report him to somebody.
That's
Like,
exactly why. Because you remember right after he looks to the other agent and he goes, "Follow him."
yeah. So back in the apartment, we get the now iconic scene of Travis practicing his quick draw while talking to himself in the mirror as if he's talking to someone else. Which I obviously it's a great scene, but I kind of hate this happens with rock and roll constantly. You see so many spoofs and like parodies of you talking to me that it almost becomes like a joke. When really in the movie it like is we're watching a guy like slowly lose his mind. It's kind of a dark and depressing thing. And when I say in rock and roll, I mean like back in the 80s, like MTV wouldn't play the Welcome to the Jungle music video. The CEO of MTV literally said, like, I'm not playing that Guns N' Roses gutter junkie rock on my channel. And then today you hear Welcome to the Jungle in Disney movies. It just completely
Right.
loses all of its like sharp edge.
They totally take what should be serious and turn it into a spoof. And that scene is like a perfect example. Like you said, we're seeing him like lose his mind. He's becoming psychotic. And the you talking to me shit's like, no one's gonna fuck with me. Are you talking to me? No one else is here. I think he says, you fucking shit heel. You shit heel. But yeah. So quick little fact about that scene. Robert De Niro got "You Talking to Me" thing from a Bruce Springsteen concert. I don't know if you knew that.
No, I
So
didn't.
he was at like a super like early, underground basement Bruce Springsteen's concert, and somebody said something to him, and he goes, "You talking to me?" Like to the crowd, and that's where he got it from. And I was like mind blown when I read that. I was like, "Wait a minute, am I reading this right?" So that's he thought it was like a good line, and he used it from there. Which Bruce Springsteen's so random, like you know,
Yeah. Oh, that's great though. That's where
yeah,
inspiration comes from is random
yeah.
shit like a Bruce Springsteen show. So later in a convenience store, Travis witnesses a man robbing the cashier at gunpoint, and Travis shoots the robber and then tells the cashier that he doesn't have a permit for his gun. So the cashier tells him he can leave and he'll take care of the robber. You can tell the cashier was appreciative of this shooting that Travis committed. I do think it's hilarious that the cashier starts beating the unconscious robber, like with it looks like he has a pole or something, and it's like, bro, he just got shot. He's totally out, and this cashier is just whooping his ass while he's out.
Well, because he said he's like third fucking time this week these motherfuckers robbed me, and he's like I don't got a permit for this thing, you know.
Oh man, yeah, I thought that one was hilarious. So we jump to Travis sitting in his taxi cab watching another Palatine rally as we hear another narration by Travis. Travis is re- Travis is writing his parents a letter telling them he can't send them his address because his government job demands the utmost secrecy. He also tells them that he's been in a relationship with a girl named Betsy for 7 months and that they would be proud of her. Now in Travis's apartment, again, he's sitting watching TV with the 44 Magnum sitting in his hand until he randomly kicks his TV over and it breaks. But then at the same time, he like expresses frustration. So I was like, did he? It seemed like he did it on purpose, but then he seemed to regret it instantly, or I don't know, maybe it was an accident. But also one of those kind of not pointless scenes, but random scenes that you could do without, but I think kind of lend more to showing you what's going on with this guy. Back in his cab, we see Travis watching an underage girl, or watching the underage girl. I'm trying to go about this like we don't already know her name because we don't learn her name in the story until later. Um, until he gets out of the car and he approaches the girl. That's when we learn that she's a prostitute. She tells Travis to go talk to her pimp so that they can arrange something. The pimp tells Travis that she's 12 years old and that he can do anything he wants to her. Like, dear God.
Fucking yeah, brutal scene. Harvey Keitel too, great actor.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I was watching another video talking about more behind the scenes stuff, and I guess Harvey Keitel wanted to hang out with a pimp to kind of, learn how to play one. And so he told Martin Scorsese, like, well, since I'm white and I'm playing a pimp, go find me a white pimp. And I guess they straight up could not find a white pimp in New York in the 70s. So he had to hang out with a black pimp for however long. And so he picked up on
Wow.
those mannerisms. And Travis agrees and he goes into a motel room with the girl. Here we learn the girl's name is Iris. Travis tries to remind Iris of the incident where she tried to escape in his taxi, and she says she doesn't remember it. Travis tells Iris that he's here to help her get away from her pimp, and she seems entirely uninterested in leaving her lifestyle. So they make plans to have breakfast the next day, and Travis leaves the hotel room. By the way, the breakfast at 1 p.m. was also hilarious to me. She's like, oh, yeah, let's get breakfast. I wake up at 1. Bro, it's like
Yeah,
after lunch.
total hooker life. Like my morning is at 12. Yeah,
So now in a diner, we see that Travis and Iris are going about their breakfast plans. Travis is telling Iris that she's too young to be living the way she's living. Iris doesn't seem to be taking him too seriously. And although she does mention a plan to move to a commune in Vermont, which is an idea that Travis says he would give her money for. Do you think so? My idea, those little goofy green sunglasses she's wearing, those are totally just to make her look young, right? Like that's a child.
right. I thought of the same thing because she doesn't look 12 years old. And Jodie Foster's genuinely 12 years old.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think she was 12 years old when you see her acting because I wouldn't say acts more mature, but she carried herself more mature.
You could
And
take
I
for like
totally think those glasses were to underline, listen, this is a child that's in that's playing a prostitute. Yes, I agree with you there.
yeah, you could totally take her for like 15 or 16 in this fucking movie.
right.
especially her acting. She says something, when they're at the table, she says, "I don't know who's more weird, you or me," and I'm like, sounds like a fucking, like, something I'd say when I was 6, like, she just sounds like she's fucking 16. So, yeah, I feel like the goofy sunglasses are to point out, like, this is a 12-year-old's fashion sense. Nobody who's, like, older than 13 would pick these fucking green sunglasses.
Right.
So later in the day, we see the pimp, who we learn his name is Sport, and, the pimp, Sport, and Iris in a motel room. Jesus Christ, imagine having to act this shit out.
I
Iris
know. And then sorry, but that's another thing I thought of. Harvey Keitel is actually kissing her and caressing her on camera. She's 12 fucking years old in real life. That was a I don't agree with they shouldn't have did that. Like,
I
I understand they were trying to show her trusting him, but, like, that was a little fucking weird,
I would be curious about, the one part where he does kiss her. I noticed the camera angle is kind of on his face and, like, kinda the back of her, like, her hair is covering, so I wonder if they had a double playing her at right at that part.
I hope so. I
But
hope
re
so.
I would imagine, but regardless, he does have to, like, slow dance with her and say, just no matter what, it would suck to have, like, be like, "Bro, you better pay me. You better fucking pay me if you're gonna have me slow dancing with, like." Oh, no way. I would imagine there's a body double for at least the kiss, but
Yeah, I would hope so.
I guess
I
you
mean,
never.
it's a great scene, but it turns your stomach. You're like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, it's,
He's got the coke nail too. He's, like,
yeah.
rubbing her hair. He's got the fucking 3-inch coke nail, you know?
It's like everything wrong with that lifestyle right here is, Iris is expressing her unhappiness. She's saying she doesn't like doing this, and Sport basically does the lover boy pimp routine on her, and, it's, like, super obvious what's going on. He puts a record on the player, and they start slow dancing while I literally wrote, "While Sport talks creepy bullshit into her ear." So, we get more footage of Travis practicing his shot at the gun range. Back in his apartment, he burns all the flowers that he had bought for Betsy. He sharpens a knife, he tapes it to the side of his boot, basically another scene of him gearing up. And then we cut to another Palatine rally. This time, when we see Travis, we see that he shaved his hair into a mohawk, and he starts watching Palatine's speech. This is one of the contradictions I've been forgetting to mention since I mentioned earlier. The contradiction of he's clearly like a bad person. He's trying to assassinate a potential presidential candidate. But then at the same time, he's also trying to save a 12-year-old girl from a life of prostitution. So it's like this.
Right. He's playing devil's advocate for sure,
Yeah,
for
he's
sure.
he's being a good guy while being a bad guy. It could go back and forth all day. So as he gets closer, or no, sorry, after the speech is over, he starts making his way toward Palatine. And as he gets closer, he reaches into his jacket for his gun, and a Secret Service agent sees this. So the agents rush Palatine away, and one of them chases after Travis, but Travis escapes. We cut to later that night. Travis drives to the motel that Sport and Iris work out of, and Travis hassles Sport and then fucking shoots him in the stomach, like pretty out of nowhere. Um, it's funny that he doesn't recognize him. I would imagine because of the haircut for the most, and I'm sure Sport
Yeah.
kills a lot of people every day.
Yeah, he goes, "You don't remember me?" He's like, "What are you, a cop?" He's like, "No, you don't remember me?" And he's like, he's completely lost it at this point, and he's just smiling, and what does he say? He's like, "Suck on this," and he
Yeah,
just fucking bam.
when he pulls the gun, yeah, suck on this, shoots him right in the gut. So, Travis enters the motel and immediately shoots a man's hand off. And here I couldn't even tell who all he was shooting, so I looked it up on Wikipedia. And according to Wikipedia, it says Travis shoots one of Iris's clients and then two men. It just says two men. So I'm assuming they're also clients of someone that works in the brothel motel thing that we're in.
So so the guy in the stairs so if you go back to the first time, they think he's a customer trying to have sex with her. When he goes up the stairs, the guy goes, 20 for the room and 20 for the house. That guy in the stairs is the guy that owns the hotel, but is also extorting men for money that are going. And so that guy, when he blows his fingers off, that's
Yeah.
the guy that was extorting people for money because he's just as guilty as the pimp. He knows what's going on.
That's what I thought, or I mean, I think that's what it is. He's the owner, but Wikipedia, I think Wikipedia calls him the bouncer, which I guess you could be the bouncer and the owner of the
Right,
place.
right, right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I think we get a quick scene of what's his name? Sport pays him money in a quick scene earlier, probably for letting him use the motel for his business.
Blows his fucking fingers off. That is such a cool scene. The dude's like, "Ah!"
Dude, it's
Blood
a
squirting everywhere.
there's nothing better than 70s violence in these fucking
Yeah,
movies. Once the blood starts coming in the 70s in films, it's always perfect.
right.
So yeah, Travis shoots two other guys that I'm guessing are clients of some employees of the brothel, and then he gets into a fight with what Wikipedia calls the bouncer, who we just said is the owner, probably both roles at the same time. And he then stabs the bouncer and then shoots him and kills him. And by that time, they had wrestled their way into the room that Iris was in. So Iris sees this and she cries and hides behind the couch. And Travis tries to shoot himself in the head, pretty much right in front of Iris, but his gun is now empty. So Travis just sits down on the couch, completely covered in blood. He's been shot in the neck. I think I skipped over the part where Sport came back into the motel and shot Travis in the neck, and then Travis shot Sport again and killed him. Travis sits on the couch as a police officer enters the room. Travis looks at the officer and with his hand motions, shooting himself in the head 3 times. We get a long camera shot looking down from the ceiling at all the chaos and bloodshed, and the camera shot leads us to outside the building where there's more cops arriving on the scene. I guess behind the scenes stuff, this is the only camera shot that was written into the script, which is interesting. I've written like 2 or 3 scripts, and you don't usually, or what I was going to say is usually the script, the screenplay writer, you're not obligated to write camera shots, but if you have good ideas for a camera shot, you would write it in there. So obviously, the guy that wrote this, Paul Schrader, said we need to have this ceiling shot down on the whole scene, and was a good call. It was a cool camera shot.
That is a very cool shot because you don't really grasp the chaos until you look at all the dead bodies from above, and that's, like, probably not an easy shot to do in '76. Like, now you could throw a drone up there and do that, but, they probably had to really hoist somebody up there to get that kinda shot.
Yeah, I would imagine, and who knows? It could be one of anything. I would think you put a guy on like a fucking dolly and have him stand on
Right,
something, and then you wheel him
right.
around really slow, and or some kind of steady cam. I don't know if that was around in '76, but yeah, definitely a cool shot. Um, it definitely shows you, and it shows you how much chaos and bloodshed there is. Dude, that scene was only like 30 seconds. Like, the
Yeah,
shootouts are never long, but a lot of shit
felt like
happens.
forever.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah,
that shit happens.
when he's sitting there going, like, wow, when I first saw that, I was like, "Holy fuck." Like, I thought this dude lost his mind when he shaved his head and tried to kill that candidate. Like, no, he's really lost his fucking mind at this point.
Yeah, yeah, he's out of it. And so, after that long shot, we see a newspaper article. I wrote that it was on Travis's wall. I don't really know if it was Travis's wall, but we see a news article with the headline "Taxi Driver Battles Gangsters," along with a voiceover narration. And this voice is Iris's father writing to Travis, telling him how much he appreciates what he did for Iris. He says Iris is back home, back in school, living her life, and that they consider Travis a hero. So we then cut to Travis hanging out with his taxi driver buddies outside the diner again. Somebody points out that somebody just got in the back of Travis's car, so Travis gets in the cab and he starts driving, and we see that it's Betsy in the back seat. We learn that Palantine got the nomination, and Betsy tells Travis that she's been reading about him in the papers, and she seems to be like appreciative of his heroic actions. Travis drops her off at her destination, and he doesn't charge her any money for the ride. And then the movie ends. My favorite theory is that Betsy's not really in the car. This is a hallucination.
Thought the same thing. Now I compare the hallucination to like the hallucinations in Joker, where you really don't know what's real and what's not. I think that is a hallucination, and the ending, the real like the ending scene is when the like music comes up and it goes bam and it shows his eyes like something else happened. You know what I'm talking about? Like I don't know if you remember the actual ending scene. Like yeah, you're right. He drops her off, but then when he's driving down the road, it's like a really loud sound, and they just show a picture of his eyes in the rearview mirror. I don't know if you remember that, or you might have closed it out beforehand, but like it could be interpreted different ways, but yeah, he I think it was a hallucination with her in there.
This time I closed it out before then. I remember it the first time, but, I always thought that was just like he was seeing something else, like, I don't know, something else was
He might
happening
have
when he
been.
was driving.
And somebody, I don't remember where I read it, but there's a scene where he doesn't have the band-aid on his face or whatever, so they're implying that he was fantasizing it. Like they show after, the shooting, he's all bandaged up, and this one scene he doesn't have anything on him. So maybe that wasn't
Okay.
a dream.
I think I think it's almost funny again how he's like a hero now, at least to Iris's parents. They consider him a hero when,
That Go ahead.
I mean,
Sorry.
he is to that family, but at the same time, I think of when he goes into the motel and starts shooting up all those, like, pimps and clients, I almost feel like that was just kind of his backup plan, like, if I don't get to shoot Palantine, I'm gonna go shoot somebody. But at the same time, he did express a lot of interest in trying to help Iris get free. So it's, the argument is kind of, was he committing a good deed out of selfless intentions or selfish intentions? Was he just gonna shoot some motherfucker no matter what? Or was he gonna shoot Palantine and then go shoot the pimp? Like, it, you know?
We would never, yeah, it's interesting to see like alternate endings. Like if he did shoot Palantine, what would have happened? I think he pretty much knew he was going to get killed. So was he really going to save Iris, or was he going to die? I think it's it was a good ending. I really liked the part where Iris's father is narrating and reading. Like he sounds like the typical Midwestern dad, like like just God fearing Midwestern guy. And it's just, I don't know, it's put together well. But great movie. I love that movie. And
Yeah.
I love when you were talking about like his second time when he goes to try to assassinate Palantine, when the Secret Service guy goes, "How you doing?" He goes, "I'm just waiting for the sun to shine." I fucking love that line. I love that line. It is
He
pretty funny.
he's like a funny, like, in a cynical, kinda dark way, he's a fucking funny character.
Yeah, he
I
is.
I really hope he got to hook up with Betsy at some point in his life. I would imagine he didn't, but I can always,
Probably didn't. I think it's funny that when he goes, "We're gonna go to a movie," and she's excited, and it's Big Bust Babes Volume 7 fucking porno. Like, what are you thinking? That's worse than the Fendi fumble, dude.
I was
That's
gonna
way
say,
worse.
it's probably one of the worst fumbles in all of human history. I would like to think it's worse than mine. I won't give myself that much credit, but yeah, it's a terrible fumble. It's funny because I really don't think he even, like, thought it was, he doesn't even think it's weird. I think he just
Uh,
genuinely thought like, "Oh, I go see these movies, like, she'll like this too." Like,
he was shocked. He was completely shocked when she walked away. Like, what? You don't want to watch? You don't want to watch this woman get fucked on camera? Like,
dude, it was like a gangbang. They showed some of it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was like all these guys, like, oh, and she tries to stomach it for a minute, which kind of makes me wonder if he just played it cool. She knew he was weird, but I think she would have she would have tried it out for
Yeah,
sure.
no, I think if it wasn't for that movie, he would have gone to her house and they would have listened to that Chris Christopherson record, and, they probably would have ended up doing the damn thing. It
Fucking
is,
Henry Crinkle.
as long as she didn't end up with that curly-headed motherfucker at the campaign office, then I'm cool.
Yeah.
'Cause I hated that guy. I don't know why. But yeah, I
Yeah,
think
he's
that
like total cornball.
but yeah, overall, I think the ending was great. The movie is awesome. I can never get enough of, like, 70s, just again, the way it looks, and then add New York in there, and it's just even better. It's a weird movie. I'll probably spend the next week listening to, like, theories on YouTube about it because movies like this seem to spawn a lot of theories because a lot of stuff is open-ended. There's, like, a million things that I probably didn't even talk about or get to, but,
It's hard to hit all the you did good, you did really good. You do the plots way better than I do. Like, it sounds more natural when you're talking about it. Like me, I'm like, "Oh, da, 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 da," like, "Where am I at?" And, like, you sound more natural with it, so it came out good.
no, I lose my
Um,
place all the time. That's when I go, that means I'm
no,
looking for my
no, you
place.
did good. I pulled up a couple, uh, just facts that I was reading that apparently Robert De Niro had an idea for like a very similar movie before he even met Scorsese about this. He wanted to write a movie about a guy, a loner in New York City who has, impulsive thoughts. I think that's pretty funny how it's ironic that they wound up, you know, doing that. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's really not many other facts than the Bruce Springsteen thing I brought up. It's super random.
Have you heard
But
about the Ronald Reagan thing?
no,
The guy that shot Reagan was inspired by this movie, apparently.
no way. No, I did not know that. I did not
Yeah,
know that.
that's like one of the biggest. I think right below the Jodie Foster being 12 thing. Not a controversy, but you know how the media likes to when bad things happen and a piece of media gets quoted, you know, they get in trouble. So I think Martin Scorsese got in a little bit of trouble when yeah, it was discovered the guy that shot Reagan. He was like a big fan and
I did not know that. That's
yeah,
crazy.
he was very inspired by Taxi Driver
I mean,
apparently.
it sounds like the same type of situation. It's like same thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
guy walked up to the
yeah,
president and yeah, took a shot.
that's crazy.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of cool stuff. There's an interview with Quentin Tarantino where he talks a lot about the kind of controversies of this movie. You know, originally it was a lot more like graphic. There's a lot more racism originally. Apparently the studio said, you know, we don't want to cause any fucking riots. I guess there was another movie at the time. In the 70s seems like that era. You know, you had The Warriors when that shit came out, caused a bunch of fucking gang.
Another great movie. That's a good movie.
Annie likes The Warriors. She said she wants to do a Warriors episode. I have it on
Um,
DVD actually, and I've never watched it. Is the thing. So
you've never seen the movie?
I own the DVD because I've always wanted to
Oh
watch it, and it
shit.
just for some reason haven't. See, I do need to watch it, and we should do The
You'll
Warriors at
like
some
that
point.
movie. That has like I feel like maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like you like movies with like a cult following,
Yeah.
and that's got a cult following like big time. That's a really cool movie. You'll like that. It's got the same gritty New York style as Taxi Driver. I mean, like gritty, dirty, chaos, anarchy.
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, I definitely need to watch it. I know in elementary school, me and my friends always did the yeah,
Warriors.
we used to do
That's
the
so
yeah.
funny, but never seen the movie. That's so funny.
Yeah. No, I had a
Yeah,
buddy who had seen it and he introduced us to saying, you know, Warriors come out and play. So we used to do it all the time. But you
yeah,
know, we
yeah.
definitely should do that one. Next week we're doing Silence of the Lambs finally. That one's gonna be a you episode, and that one's all you. It's
Yeah,
funny,
I'm
Annie,
pumped.
did you notice that on Wednesday she said she has mixed feelings about it?
Yeah, I thought she would. Yeah,
I
yeah.
I
I
thought she
remember
was
she
like a
said that.
she yeah, originally I thought she was like a huge fan because she was like, "Oh, I want in on that." You know, I like that movie. And then she's like, "Oh, I have mixed feelings about it." I'm like, "Well, I mean, I don't care. She can, you know, she's more than welcome to join it either way." I thought it was funny. I'm like, "I thought you fucking loved this movie."
Yeah, and it's funny because I posted a story about Silence of the Lambs and she shared it or liked it. So maybe it's going to be interesting to hear her uh opinion on it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think it'll be good. I think it'll be cool. Like I said, I'm
right.
excited to watch it again for the first time in a lot of years because I haven't watched it in a long time. Like I said, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna like it more just from the scenes I've rewatched already. I feel like I'll like it more. Um, it's crazy to see 12-year-old whore Jodie Foster turn into adult
Right.
Jodie Foster, the FBI agent.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah, like what a fucking career, huh? I mean, amazing.
We seem to go on these themes too. I'll let
You
you
don't
go
even
here.
know it.
Yeah, in a second, just because I know you're on a work week, right?
Yeah, I mean, I got a couple minutes, but yeah,
Right on. No, I was just saying it's funny how we do these themes. First it was what House of a Thousand Corpses, and then Easy Rider, and then Devil's
Devil's
Rejects,
Rejects.
and then Texas Chainsaw. We've been doing a lot of 70s, 69, 70s. Silence will be our first venture into the 90s, and then after that we'll pick something else. I'm sure we'll end up picking another good one.
It's funny because when I look at our videos, the ones that have the most views are the movie reviews. I don't know if that's because you're using hashtag
It's
Rob Zombie, hashtag like this would be hashtag, taxi driver. And I hope a lot of people get to watch it so they can chime in on what they think
so it's
as
it's
well.
because there's something to watch. I've been telling Annie we need to do or now we're doing movie stuff. You know, right now on Wednesdays, you, Annie, and I are quite literally just three strangers on the internet talking about anything. So there's
Right.
no appeal to strangers. Whereas if I'm a House of a Thousand Corpses fan, I can be like, oh, they're talking about my favorite movie, so I'll click on this and watch it. So I need to do more themed, more specific. That's also why I like putting the on the Wednesday themes. I like putting what we're talking about in the title. So like on last Wednesdays, there might be somebody who's interested in the Manson case. They're like, oh, they see Manson in the title, they click on it. So, yeah, I noticed the movie ones get most, which I think is good. I have an
Yeah, I mean, you
idea.
could go ahead.
I was just saying I have an idea. There's a video I've been working on. I've I procrastinate way too much. I started doing my own like pre-recorded video on Frankenstein, and then I decided I want to do a different video that'll take like a few days to finish. I recorded a little bit last night of it, and that one I think might be a topic that some people will click on. But yeah, usually people are, if you're completely unheard of, more people will click on stuff of you talking about something that they know about, as opposed to just like, oh, here's some random shit on a Wednesday night from a guy you've
Right,
never met.
right,
I,
right.
th- I think Easy Rider is one of the ones that has the most, which I
Yeah,
was
I seen that.
I was surprised by. I thought the Rob Zombie movies would get the quickest, but yeah, Easy Rider seems to be doing the best, which is awesome. It's fucking Easy Rider.
Yeah, the more hashtags related to the topic, the better, I think. And yeah, I mean, we could talk about trying to keep the Wednesdays as a themed thing. I mean, I think crime is a huge, huge thing. We're all into that, and that draws people in. Crime, I mean, like we could pick a, case like each
So
Wednesday.
Annie just voted the idea, which it sounds like we should do. I like doing like random bullshit. So like I like that, but Annie was saying we should pick one case every week and at least do like I think about when we did the Apple River case. I liked that stream. We talked about some shit, whatever we wanted, and then the main event is here's us talking about this one case. So people could skip past that if they want, but either way they would click on it.
Right. Yeah, that we should do that. We just got to all get on board during the week and be like, all right, this is the case, study it, and what's your opinion on it? And I think that
Yeah.
would be cool because we'd have, three totally different views. We have a female, we have two guys that are, we're from different parts of the country or different views, probably. Like, that would be cool. And and yeah, to touch on what I was talking about earlier, I gotta, man, her name's Jenna, but I think she changed her Instagram name. I gotta get in touch with her because I'm pretty positive she would have no problem coming on here and talking about her time in that cult. And it's funny because I never told you this. I did a stream it's on Spotify, but it's only through like a second party thing. And I would just interview random people, and it wasn't really good. Like it wasn't put together like as good as this is. But like I interviewed her because I went to school with her, and I was like, I know you're into like the occult and this black magic shit, and like you were in a cult. What was that like? And she spilled it all, and it was really cool. I wish it was on here. She wound up getting in this cult, and like she didn't know it was going to turn like satanic and weird, and it did. And she wound up like getting involved with like the Freemasons, and that shit all got together. And she was in, dude, real quick, she was in court. She was in court wearing her fucking Golden Dawn like pendant thing, and she's in court, like it was for like a speeding ticket or something. And the fucking prosecutor looks up at her and he sees the pendant on her chest. And he's like, "Can you come here?" Pulls her out of line. And he goes, "Where are you from?" And she's like, "Well, I'm from New Jersey, but I lived in Philly." He's like, "Yeah, I like your necklace." And she's like, "Yeah." He's like, "We're gonna go tell the judge the case is thrown away." And threw it away. Like, how fucking freaky is that? Like she was really good. She talked about that kind of shit. So I think Annie would really enjoy it because she's into all that like black, witchcraft, crazy shit. And apparently that's what her that cult wound up being like.
Yeah, that would be badass. I'd be super down for that.
Yeah, I'm gonna do some digging. I gotta go back in my messages and be like, hey, like I know I haven't talked to you, but would you be interested? I think she'd be more than happy to because she was so pumped to even do the one with me. So it would be cool to have somebody, a guest like that.
Yeah, hell yeah. Well, shit.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, let me know whenever. That'd be awesome. I think fucking A, what was I gonna say? I don't have anything else to say. I was gonna say before we I'm gonna end this one before we end up going. I remember we did Easy Rider and we got 2 videos out of it with the separate, but I'm not gonna keep
Right.
you for another like hour to talk about American politics and shit. So yeah, fucking A, I will let you go.
Yeah, man.
Taxi Driver's awesome. Always a good
Yeah, it
time.
was fun. That was fun. Good job breaking that down. That was good. And hopefully Sherm Smoke gets to watch it because he was saying that he was into this movie. So that'd be cool to get
I,
his.
I I know he clicks on the videos when they're done, even if he misses them. So he'll probably
Yeah,
message one of us about
that's
it.
cool. That's cool. So Yeah, man, good time, and appreciate you having me on again. And you enjoy your night. I will see you or talk to